The youngest of three daughters, Edie Ray, was delighted when her mother's boyfriend moved in with them.
He came in, that loving daddy that every girl wants to have in their life, and, you know, take me places and buy things, and called me his little girl.
He entered Edie's life just 6 months after her own father passed away, and he treated her like a princess. But once she turned 10, everything changed.
The first time that he ever sexually abused me, it shook my whole world. My whole life came apart that day. I felt shameful, guilty. What did I do to cause this?
The abuse became a nightly occurrence. He threatened to hurt her sisters if she ever told.
I remember laying in the bed and just taking the blankets and completely covering from head to toe, thinking that I would just disappear and that he wouldn't know that I was there.
Then he started selling her to other men.
The first time that he sold me, he actually took me to a gentleman's home, and I didn't really understand what was going on until we got there, and he told me what I was going to do. At 12, I got pregnant by somebody. He took me to have an abortion, and the next day I went to school like nothing had happened.
Her mother, a drug dealer, turned a blind eye to the abuse, even when Edie confided in her.
She, told me that it was all my fault, that I needed to stay away from her boyfriend and act like a lady. It made me feel unwanted, unloved.
To numb her emotional pain, Edie started taking drugs, and by 16, she was desperate to escape the abuse. She pursued a relationship with David, a 19-year-old who often bought drugs from her mother.
She called me up wanting to go out on a date, and I told her I couldn't date her because she was only 16. I was 19. I told her to call me back when she turned 17, and surprisingly, she did.
A couple months into us dating, I got pregnant. We decided then that we were just gonna get married and try to make a life and do the right thing.
A few years into their marriage, David was involved in a bar fight that nearly cost him his life. It made him reevaluate the way he was living.
You're never guaranteed tomorrow. I was thinking of the hospital laying there, how close I come to death, and where I was going to be if I did die, because I didn't know for sure that I was going to go to heaven. My mother had invited us to church, and I told Edie, I said, we need to go back.
And then the following Sunday, we gave our hearts to Christ. I heard the right thing, that he loved me, and it spoke to my heart.
Despite her new faith, Edie questioned God about the trauma of her past.
A portion of my heart was like, okay, he loves me, but why wasn't he there? I wanted to know why. Why didn't you save me? Why didn't you rescue me? Why did you let my mom just turn a blind eye? There was just too much going on still in my head.
Over the next decade, her horrific memories sent her into depression. She'd never told David the extent of her childhood trauma.
Me and my pastor, we sat on the floor and prayed a lot of evenings. I thought Edie was going through a mental breakdown, but I didn't know that it was her way of trying to deal with her childhood.
Because every time that I looked in that mirror, I seen myself looking back and hated that person.
In 2008, their pastor began a new teaching series about purpose. For Edie, it started the healing process that she needed.
Shame, guilt, all of these things that I had carried for so long, I was hearing the complete opposite. There was purpose and that I am worthy, and all of that stuff, it was not me.
She decided to seek Christian counseling, and in time, she was able to see herself through God's eyes.
I love that verse in Isaiah where he heals the brokenhearted. And I was broken, and he molded and masterfully put me back together.
In 2010, Edie learned that her mother's boyfriend was in the hospital and wanted to see her.
Fear. Oh, Lord, what does he want? What am I going to say? Why? What's going to happen? What does he want to see me for?
She decided to see him and prayed for God to guide her response.
At the hospital, I prayed, Lord, let me glorify you in all that I say and do. And went up into the room, and there he was, crying uncontrollably and crying for forgiveness.
Facing her abuser after so many years, she finally was able to release the pain he had caused her.
I said, yes, you caused shame and guilt and fear, but the Lord has healed that, and what he's done for me, he can do for you. And I was able to pray with him, let him know that Christ loves him, and he accepted Christ.
2 weeks later, the man passed away. Edie also forgave her mother and led her to Christ as well.
That forgiveness, I think, was the point in her life where something happened, change happened.
Jesus, he took those memories, and now I'm able to share with other women and let them see what he has done in my life, and the healing and the hope that I have.